Hey guys, welcome back to Gotta Be Geek. And today I'm sitting here with Jake from We Trade HQ. And Jake and I have known each other for a little while now, and we've been doing trading and kind of talking back and forth. And he's been working on a algo trading bot, which has been really neat. And I've been looking at it, and it's over on his YouTube channel. So I hope you'll check that out. And with that said, I'll let Jake kind of introduce himself and talk a little bit more in detail about what he does for his business.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Jake. I run a software company called We Trade HQ, and I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about software development, algo trading with the stock market, and a bunch of more coding and software engineering topics. So, thanks, Mike, for having me.
Yeah, so Jake and I have been talking about doing this collab for some time now, and so I think it's really exciting that we're finally getting the opportunity to do this. And I think it's been great kind of seeing Jake and his channel growth, and so I'm probably gonna have a link somewhere up here in the top for you to click on to go check out his videos, especially those really neat ones about his algo trading bot. I definitely think it's worth your time to check out. So please take a look at that and click on those. And today we wanted to talk about the top five Agile software development practices. And so I think it's going to be really neat and really fun time talking about these. And we hope you learned something. And before we get into it, we'll roll the intro and then we'll get started from there.
All right, guys. So, my first best practice when it comes to agile development and software in general is having a swarm bug week. And basically, what a swarm bug week is basically taking a set amount of time to just focus on fixing bugs. It doesn't have to be a week, although I'd recommend a week. It could be, a couple of days or a day. But I recommend usually, at least 1 week per month of really just honing in and focusing on fixing current bugs with your project. Okay. By, really eliminating all your distractions when it comes to that shiny new object syndrome where you want new features, new features, new features, and just honing in on fixing bugs, you're actually going to get a lot more done quicker, and your overall project, app, website, whatever it may be, will have a greater chance of success in the future because you've eliminated those bugs. A lot of us developers and engineers, we get that, we always want to do new features to, because we think new features, our end users are going to love it more, right? The more cool stuff we can add to them and problems we can solve, the better, right? And that's not
Mm-hmm.
always the case, because if you get on that, momentum train of new feature, new feature, new feature, we all know that new features bring new bugs. And when you let that backlog of bugs add up too much, it can now be a detriment to your project, and your end users will trust you less and use your product less. So, like I said, just taking a week, as what I call a swarm week, to fix bugs will really put you on the best path to success for your project, and just also reduce a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety of, oh, is there bugs I have to do? Just setting that week really helps.
Yeah, I mean that's a great one. I think that's a great one for us to start on. I know that we've talked about this, but this isn't just for small businesses. This is definitely something that's kind of important for businesses of all sizes,
Yep.
because as Jake pointed out, as you're going through, everyone gets excited to add those new features, and so it's easy to forget about the backlog of bugs and issues, and it can escalate pretty quickly sometimes, especially when you're churning out those new features. So I think this is important for any team to be doing on a regular basis. And I know my own team at work, we do this as well.
That's great. Yeah, just a necessary balance, right?
Yeah,
To
exactly.
kind of balance both sides. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So following it up with number two is going to be retrospectives, which is probably one of my favorites as far as some agile development processes. So the reason I think this is so important is because when a team does retrospectives after they do their sprint, generally like a 2 week iteration, you can go through the different things that you thought went well and the things that didn't go so well. And that way, when you identify what went well, you can try and mimic those behaviors and make sure you implement or continue doing those things. Sometimes we might recognize something that happened once that wasn't an intentional thing, but we want to maybe keep doing that. So we identify a behavior that we liked and we just keep going forward with that one. And then conversely, we have things that maybe didn't go so well. So we can talk about what we don't want to see again, or what just didn't go well, and we can establish maybe an owner to look at how we can improve that action. And so, because sometimes you can't answer every problem that comes up when you do these retrospectives right then and there. So sometimes you might need to assign someone to take some time to look into how they can maybe improve the process that didn't go so well. Sometimes this can be, maybe communication on a particular thing didn't go so well, or maybe we underestimated something with planning and it made something take longer than it was intended. And I think this just really helps everybody grow when everybody can sit back and take that time to improve those things. And I think it also prevents kind of resentment maybe sometimes on a team. When you have a team that's not going back and looking through these retrospectives and things to improve, and there's something that might be bothering somebody that they think is not going well on the team, then eventually that person might just get tired of doing that. So I think that it helps everyone kind of keep a good mindset to improve when you reflect back on a regular basis, rather than letting a lot of issues just kind of perpetuate and go on for a long period of time.
Totally agreed. You said it perfectly, Mike. I think at the end of the day, having retrospectives puts more trust with your colleagues and bosses, whatever it may be, whoever you're working with. It builds that trust because you're openly communicating about what's going well, what's not going well. If you're not communicating, um, especially over a long period of time, you kind of lose trust and you're like, okay, like, there's no direction, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
no, where are we going? What's going on? Like, all these things are happening. We're not really talking about how we're going to fix them or what's going well. And at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest things that leads to success in any project and product in the end is
Mm-hmm.
having trust and open communication with your team members.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So number three, in terms of best practices when it comes to agile development, is the importance of code review or peer review. Generally, in a project, you want to have a system in place where you have a developer engineer who's adding some new code, whether it be a new feature or a bug fix, and then someone's able to actually look at it. And ideally, multiple people can look at that new code and either accept or deny it, right? Blindly going into adding new features and bug fixes just with one person and then putting it into production will cause big disasters, big fires, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's crucial to have someone else have a second pair of eyes or third pair of eyes look at your code to just find flaws, right? We're human beings, we all have we're not perfect, and more often than not you're going to miss something.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, 2 3 weeks in a row you might have no issues with your code, and that fourth week, because you didn't have that code review, something massive broke, and now it's in production, and because no one reviewed it, it's now your end customers can see it, and your kind of uh, representation goes down, your trust goes down with your end customers. So yeah, just having someone else look at your code, and they're going to be able to help you improve as well as a developer, right?
Yeah,
They're,
exactly.
having that second set of eyes, they're going to be able to offer suggestions, and maybe they're more knowledgeable on the subject, and maybe they're not, and you actually teach them something. Like it could go vice versa.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it's just a process you need, and yeah, it's just one of the bricks to success when it comes to software development.
Yep. Yeah, I've had times where maybe I was maybe the subject matter expert on a particular PR, and then somebody asks a question, and then by virtue of explaining something to someone that doesn't maybe understand it fully, you can still find things that are wrong. Someone kind of being curious, trying to understand something a little bit more, can provoke you to try and figure out how to explain it, or maybe it might cue that you need more documentation in your code. Maybe the code wasn't written in a self-documented way that makes it clear for other people on your team to understand what's going on there. So yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't need to be someone that's more experienced reviewing your code. It can definitely be the opposite way.
Yep. It's at the end of the day, it's a win-win situation. So
Yep.
definitely look at implementing code review in your project.
Yep. Here we go with number 4 on our list of development practices, which is going to be iterative development. So iterative development, I think, is great because a lot of times we have these ideas of a big application or a big platform or project, and it can kind of seem a little daunting to, think, how are we going to create this big application? And when you try and, break that project or that application down into kind of smaller bite-sized chunks, and work on that in your agile sprints and iterations, you can knock away at that and have more little bits of code, or parts of that project that you can kind of complete in a meaningful, consumable way that end up building up to that larger application and goal. And I think it just kind of helps it keep easier to progress, and make the end goal seem a little less daunting when you kind of have these acceptance criteria and end goals that you can achieve in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, I think it just helps with keeping that motivation when it comes to completing a large project, and just that psychology of being able to check off little tasks, makes you feel good and keeps up that motivation instead of
Mm-hmm.
one big massive project. It's better to have small check marks leading up to that big one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, just better for software development because in our, in our industry, things are always evolving and there's always new technologies and new libraries to use. And, always keeping a grasp on, um, you know, keeping up to date with those. And because
Mm-hmm.
you're only working usually in, 2 week, 1 week, whatever processes, you're able to kind of integrate those a bit easier if you have to, and not say, oh, that's going to take years to do and or
Mm-hmm.
6 months to do kind of thing. So I think big benefit with iterative development.
Yeah, it also allows you to flex a little bit more too, right? I mean, if you have if you're kind of working on chunks of a larger view, you can kind of adapt to changes a bit quicker and easier as you go forward. If you realize that there's a new requirement or a new change that needs to be
Mhm.
made, you can kind of focus on that change for that one, chunk, rather than having to necessarily worry about making some massive change to a larger kind of
Mhm.
product.
And that fix will work for the rest of the project. Like say you're working on a 2 week sprint and there's a library update or a dependency update that is a must. Maybe it's a security issue.
Mm-hmm.
Within that 2 weeks, you can get that done, and then for the rest of the project, that's kind of less anxiety off, or that's off your shoulders, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
if you had one big project and you're like, oh man, we're almost done, but now we got to do this update, and you can't complete the rest of the project until this update's done. Like it's just way less efficient. So being able to do it iteratively helps for sure and
Mm-hmm.
adapt easily, faster.
Exactly. All right, so moving on to number 5, we've got the importance of creating a backlog and a product vision together. So this one I think is also useful because it might be a little bit different with your team structure sometimes, but when you've got more maybe that kind of product owner or program management aspect, looking at some of the vision and planning, and then you have the engineering side of the house. You really want to collaborate on the backlog of tasks and items because both people are going to be able to kind of provide some insight, and both kind of have their own parts of that backlog that they kind of need to work on and maybe be responsible for. And so you definitely don't want just engineering or just product management to spend all the time looking at that backlog and working on it, because you're going to end up missing out on valuable context that either person can provide from their own kind of areas of responsibility from day-to-day work. And so I just think that it's healthy when you maintain that backlog and that vision together on a regular basis. And a lot of times, at least on our teams and other teams I've known, this is something you usually do, maybe once, maybe twice in a sprint.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it helps the vision come alive easier, right? It makes it clearer instead of being blurry. If you don't have a backlog or quite a number of backlog items, it's kind of, you feel like you're not going anywhere, and having that, at least spending time, having an active backlog helps you complete your vision better, and better integrates, like you said, the engineers and the product manager, product owner, really solidifying that relationship as well.
Yep.
All right, guys, I hope you found a lot of value on the tips that Mike and I mentioned, and be sure to look at implementing those into your current project. And Mike, thank you for having me on the channel.
Yeah. I think it was a good set of development practices, and these are our top 5 favorites. And so we'd love to hear what yours are. If you have any different ones that you'd like to share down in the comment section below. And I think this probably won't be the last collab video between Jake and I.
Definitely not.
I think we have another one on the docket hopefully soon. So subscribe to either channel if you haven't already, and look out for the next one.
See you guys.
Bye.